The alien queen's army took my daughter, now they're calling me commander. Smoke rose into the sky, thick and black. The Earth's defense sirens screamed in every city, but it was already too late. The alien ships had come without warning, giant and alive, moving like creatures rather than machines. They hovered above the ground, opening their massive jaws and dropping soldiers like falling insects. People ran, screamed, begged. No one knew where to go. Daniel held his daughter's hand. Tightly, weaving through the crowd, Lily was only 8 years old, wearing her pink hoodie and hugging a small stuffed bear. Her eyes were wide with fear, but she didn't cry. She was brave, just like her mother had been. Daniel promised her, "I won't let anything happen to you." But chaos didn't wait for promises. An explosion shook the ground, tossing people. Like rag dolls, Daniel covered Lily with his body, protecting her from flying debris. He coughed and stood up, ears ringing, and looked around. They were near the evacuation shuttle, but soldiers were shouting something, orders he couldn't understand. Then he saw it. A strange ship, unlike the others, landed silently in front of the shuttle. Its surface was smooth and bone-white, and its door slid open like a mouth. Daniel turned to run, but 3 tall alien warriors appeared, gray-skinned with sharp, glowing eyes. They didn't attack, they didn't shout, they just walked forward calmly. The human soldiers opened fire, but their bullets bounced off. People screamed and scattered, but in the panic, someone pushed against Daniel. His grip slipped Lily. He shouted, turning fast. She had fallen, her bear lying beside her. One of the alien warriors picked her up with careful hands. Not hurting her, Daniel ran forward, shouting, screaming, but a wall of light blocked him. He pounded his fists on it, helpless. Through the glowing wall, he saw Lily reaching out, her eyes locked on his. Her lips moved. "Papa." Then the alien ship's door closed. Daniel's scream was lost in the sound of engines roaring to life. The white ship rose into the air, vanishing in seconds. Daniel dropped to his knees. The light wall flickered and vanished. The battlefield around him was silent, now just smoke, bodies, and broken machines. He stared at the sky, his heart hollow. His daughter was gone. 3 days later, he sat in the ruins of their apartment. Holding her bear in his hands, the world had lost millions, but all he could think about was her. Why did they take her? Why not kill them like the others? Then a message came from the Resistance. They had found something, an alien cum log pulled from a crashed Zelari ship. Daniel wasn't a soldier anymore, but he had once been part of the Special Operations Division. They called him back, hoping he could translate the message. He watched the grainy screen light up with strange symbols. Then a voice, alien, cold female, spoke in broken Earth language. Subject 74. Human child. Marked as chosen by the Queen, everyone in the room turned to look at him. His blood froze. Lily, his Lily, was Subject 74. What does chosen mean? One Resistance leader asked. Daniel had no answer, but deep inside, something awoke, something dangerous, a father's fury. He stood and said only one thing: "I'm going to get her back." He didn't wait for permission. He didn't ask for help. The moment he left that base, Daniel was no longer just a grieving father. He was a man on a mission. He knew he had to understand the enemy to reach her. He studied their patterns, their biology, their tech, everything. He spent months moving between broken cities and secret outposts, gathering what he needed. Then one day, a message arrived from a spy within the Zelari ranks. It was a single line of alien script, but Daniel had learned enough to read it. "She will rise in the high first of the pure." He stared at the words for hours. Lily wasn't just taken. She was being turned into something important to them. And Daniel would go to the center of their hive world to stop it, no matter what it cost, even if it meant never coming back. He looked up at the stars, his voice steady. "Hold on, baby girl, Papa's coming." The ship creaked under his feet. As Daniel crouched behind a pile of broken crates, he could hear alien voices echoing down the corridor sharp. Clicking sounds that didn't feel like words, but he had learned to read their tones. They were looking for him, but not panicking. They didn't expect a human to survive this deep into their territory. Daniel had done the unthinkable. He had boarded one of their hive transports during a night assault. Hidden in the shadows, now he was light years away from Earth, somewhere inside one of the Zellerai hive worlds. It didn't look like anything built by hands. The walls were soft, alive, almost pulsing like the inside of a body. The corridors were curved, slippery, and warm. It was like walking through a giant living creature. He moved slowly, staying in the shadows, holding his small translator device. Every few steps, he pressed it against the walls, listening for signals. He needed to find any mention of Lily, his daughter, the one they called Chosen. He passed through a chamber where tiny alien younglings were resting inside cocoons, humming gently. None of them looked like soldiers. They looked like children, and that shook Daniel more than he expected. He found a glowing platform ahead of their data system. He placed his device on it, the translator blinking fast. A new file opened, a hologram flickered to life. He stepped back in shock. There she was, Lily. Standing tall in silver robes, a crown-like band around her forehead. But her eyes, they were calm, focused, not like the scared little girl he remembered. "I accept the will of the Queen," she said, in perfect alien language. "I will become what I must." Daniel's hands shook. His daughter didn't look forced or afraid. She looked proud. Something had happened to her, something more than brainwashing. He downloaded the data and moved on, heart racing. At the next intersection, 2 alien guards appeared before they could react. Daniel threw a flash device and ran. He ducked into a side tunnel and slid down a slippery slope. Landing hard, he groaned, rolled to his feet, and froze. An alien was waiting for him, but this one didn't attack. It was taller, wearing white armor unlike the others. Its voice was deep, but calm, translated by his device. "You are the one they call the Father." Daniel didn't speak, too stunned. The alien tilted its head and lowered its weapon. "She speaks your name in her dreams." It said, "Lily Nara, heir of the Queen, dreams of you often." Daniel stepped forward slowly. "Where is she?" he whispered. The alien raised a hand, signaling silence. "There are ears everywhere, but I will help you." Daniel blinked, confused. "Why?" he asked. The alien looked toward the ceiling, where the hive walls pulsed softly. "Because this path is wrong," it said quietly, "because the child should not be used." A strange feeling crept over Daniel. He had expected monsters, not this. The alien handed him a glowing stone. "She is in the core nest, but you cannot go there as prey." Daniel frowned. "What does that mean?" The alien placed a hand on his chest. "You must earn the right to enter. Fight, survive, become one of us. Only then will the Queen accept you." Daniel clenched his fists. "I'm not here to be accepted," he said. "I'm here to take my daughter back." The alien gave a soft clicking sound, a laugh. "Maybe then become the blade they fear," it said. "Only then can you reach the throne." With that, the alien vanished into the shadows. Daniel stood there, the hive breathing around him like a giant beast. He knew what had to be done. He couldn't sneak through this place anymore. He had to rise through it. He had to make them believe he belonged just long enough to tear it all apart from the inside. He looked at the glowing stone in his hand. It pulsed like a heartbeat, guiding him forward. Somewhere deep within this monstrous world, his daughter was waiting. She didn't know he was alive, but soon the whole hive would know his name. Not as a visitor, not as prey, but as a storm that had come to bring her home even if it meant burning their entire world to ash. The hive city opened before him like a nightmare made real. Daniel stepped through the gate, carrying the glowing stone the alien warrior had given him. No alarms rang, no weapons fired. Instead, tall guards stepped aside as he passed. There, glowing eyes, watching, but not attacking. He didn't understand it at first. But the deeper he went, the more he noticed strange looks, nods of recognition, whispered words in their native tongue. Some even dropped to one knee when he passed. Something had changed. He wasn't just a human invader now. To them, he was something more. He entered a circular chamber lined with giant, curved bones. The air shimmered with energy, and in the center stood a pillar of light. A figure appeared in the glow, and Daniel's breath caught in his throat. It was Lily, but not Lily as he remembered her. Her hair was longer now, braided with thin silver cords. Her clothing was alien flowing fabric that moved like water, glowing faintly on her forehead. The same crown as before, now larger, more detailed. She stood tall, calm, her small hands folded in front of her. She didn't see him. This was a recording an event from before. A voice echoed through the chamber, the queen's voice, low and musical. Lily Nara, first of the pure, speak your name. Lily raised her chin. I am Lily Nara, she said firmly, child of earth and flame, chosen of the queen. Daniel stepped closer, barely breathing. She has accepted the path. The queen's voice said, she will rule when I fall. She will lead our armies across the stars. No, Daniel whispered. He touched the pillar and the vision faded. The chamber went dark, silent. She had taken his daughter, not just from Earth, but from herself, and she had replaced her name, her memories, her future. Daniel turned and froze. A figure stood in the shadows behind him, tall and graceful. Her skin shimmered with blue and silver tones, her eyes glowing gold. She wore no armor, only a long robe of living silk. It was the queen. He reached for his weapon, but before he could draw it, the queen raised her hand. No need for violence, Daniel, she said in perfect English. Her voice was smooth and strange, almost soothing. Violence will not bring her back to you. Daniel narrowed his eyes. You knew my name, he growled. I've known your name since the moment your child touched our soil. She replied, she carries your blood, your strength, your fire. He clenched his fists. You brainwashed her, turned her into something she's not. The queen tilted her head. We revealed what she already was. Daniel stepped forward. She's 8, he said coldly. She's a little girl, not a weapon, not a queen, and not yours. The queen didn't flinch. She is not a girl anymore, she said quietly. She has seen more stars than any child of Earth, felt the minds of my people, learned our history. She chose her name, Daniel. He stopped, the words hitting like a punch. She chose it. He whispered. She asked about you every day, the queen said. But when no answer came, she made peace with her new family. Daniel looked away, pain burning in his chest. She thinks I abandoned her. She thinks you are dead. The queen said gently, and that pain made her stronger. More focused, more like a leader. He looked up slowly. What do you want from me? The queen stepped closer. I want you to help her, she said. Her rise will be challenged by the old warriors, the caste who believe no human should sit on the throne, but you. You are the bridge. Daniel laughed bitterly. You want me to help lead the army that took my daughter from me? No, she replied. I want you to lead it with her. The silence between them felt heavy. I didn't come here to serve you, he said. I came to bring her home. The queen's voice turned sharp. Then she will die, either by war or rebellion. She cannot return to Earth now, not as she is. Daniel's heart raced. He remembered Lily's face, her laugh, her drawings, her favorite bedtime stories. He couldn't reach that version of her anymore, but maybe he could protect who? She was now, even if it meant standing beside the enemy. He turned away from the queen. "I'll think about it," he muttered. "No," she said. "You will train tomorrow in front of the council. In front of her, she must see the strength that lives in her blood." Daniel said nothing. As he left the chamber, he didn't look back. But his mind was spinning. His daughter had a new name, a new crown, and a new people. And if he wanted to save her, he would have to become part of that world, at least long enough to bring her back or die trying. Daniel stood in a vast, circular arena made of smooth black stone. The ceiling above him pulsed with soft green light, and the air felt thick like standing inside a giant heart. All around him were alien warriors, tall and quiet, each with skin like armor and eyes that glowed in shades of blue and gold. They called it the Blood Circle, the place where new leaders proved their strength. And Daniel was the first human ever to step inside it alive. He didn't want to be here. But the queen had made it clear he wanted to get close too. Lily again, he had to earn their respect. He had to survive the trials, not as a human, but as something stronger. Across from him stood a warrior named Shira. Her gaze was sharp, her stance perfect. She moved like lightning. With twin blades in her hands that shimmered like crystal, she was one of the queen's most feared fighters, and she hated Daniel. "You are soft," she said without emotion. "You bleed too easily." "Human." Daniel cracked his neck, raising his fists. "And you talk too much," he replied. The gong sounded, and she came at him fast. He barely dodged the first strike, the blade cutting a strand of his hair. But he didn't try to match her speed. He used her strength against her, dodging low, grabbing her wrist, twisting hard. She flipped and kicked him in the ribs, sending him rolling across the floor. The crowd didn't cheer or boo. They just watched, judging, weighing, waiting. Daniel stood back up, coughing blood again, he said. And so they fought day after day. Trial after trial. Shira bruised him, cut him, knocked him unconscious twice, but he always got back up, and each time he lasted longer. His body adapted, his mind sharpened. He wasn't just fighting her, he was learning her. And she noticed, one day, during a silent meal, she sat beside him. She didn't speak, but she didn't attack either. It was the first time she didn't treat him like dirt. That silence said everything. He began to train with others, not just fight them. They watched him build weapons from scrap, fix broken drones, and rewire alien tech like it was simple Earth gear. He taught them things they didn't know, tricks from human wars, survival under pressure, thinking outside the code. They started to ask questions, not about Earth, but about him, and one by one, they began calling him something new. Commander. He didn't like the title, but he didn't refuse it. He knew it brought him closer to Lily. One night, while alone in his chamber, a low chime rang. He turned and there she was, standing in the doorway. Lily. She looked different again. Older than before, maybe 9 now, but her eyes were still hers. She didn't speak right away, just stared. Then she said softly, "You look tired." Daniel chuckled, his voice shaking. "Yeah, you too." She walked closer, her hands behind her back. "They told me you were dead," she said. "I wanted to believe you were alive, but it hurt too much." Daniel knelt down, trying to hide the tears forming in his eyes. "I never stopped looking for you," he whispered. "Never." Not for 1 second. Lily nodded, but her face stayed calm. "They taught me to be strong, Papa." She said, "They told me I had a purpose." He reached for her hand. "You already had a purpose," he said, "to be a kid, to live, to grow up on Earth." She pulled her hand away, gently. "I'm not that kid anymore," she said. And that broke something inside him. She turned to leave, but paused at the door. "The council wants you to lead a mission," she said without looking back. "They think you can help them win against the rebels." He stood slowly. "Are you the one who decided that?" She didn't answer. Then she whispered, "I wanted to see if you would stay." Then she left. Daniel stood alone, heart torn in every direction. His daughter was alive, strong, and rising fast among aliens who worshipped her, and now they were offering him command of an army. He had come to rescue her, but she was no longer someone who needed rescuing. The question now burned inside him: would he fight for Earth or for her? Or was there still a way to do both? The Queen's throne room was nothing like Daniel had imagined. He expected cold metal and harsh lights, but instead, he found life-soft blue vines hanging from the ceiling, glowing orbs floating like jellyfish, and a soft hum in the air that felt like music played inside the bones. Every step he took on the living floor echoed like a heartbeat. At the far end, she sat tall, graceful, unmoving, the Queen of the Zellery, ruler of 1,000 worlds. Her robe flowed like liquid silver, her crown made of bone and light, and her eyes, golden and deep, never blinked. Beside her stood Lily. Or rather, Lily Nera, dressed in ceremonial robes, her head bowed, hands crossed. Daniel's heart twisted. That was his daughter, but now she looked like royalty, like she belonged here. He stopped 10 feet away, saying nothing. 2 guards stepped forward to disarm him. But the Queen raised a finger. "No," she said softly. "He comes as guest, not prisoner." Daniel kept his eyes on Lily, who wouldn't look at him. "You wanted me here," he said, voice sharp. "Say what you brought me across the stars." To hear, the Queen smiled slowly. "I brought you nothing," she said. It was she who asked. Lily lifted her eyes. Meeting his gaze for the first time, "I told them you were ready," she said quietly. "I told them you would stand before her and not bow." Daniel's jaw tightened. "I'm not here to kneel, and I didn't ask for this." The Queen stood, her movement smooth and fluid, like a wind shifting through water. "You were chosen the moment she was taken," she said. "Your blood made her, your strength lives in her. She leads now. But a leader must not walk alone," Daniel frowned. "You want me to guide her?" The Queen stepped down from her throne, eyes never leaving his. "No. I want you to protect what you helped create." He scoffed. "She's my daughter. I never stopped protecting her. But you let her go." The Queen said gently, "You failed to stop us." The words cut deep, and Daniel wanted to scream. But Lily spoke. "I don't blame you," she said softly. "I just want you here." Daniel looked at her again. There was a sadness in her voice, hidden beneath the calm. She didn't want him to fight the Queen or take her back. She just didn't want to lose him again. "So what now?" he asked slowly. "I lead your armies, become your champion." The Queen walked past him, standing by the edge of a glowing pool. "War is coming," she said. "Our own people rebel. They reject her human blood. They call her false queen. They want to tear her down, and the only thing that keeps them back is fear of her. And of you." Daniel stepped closer, staring into the pool, where flickers of light showed battleships burning, warriors falling. "And if I say no?" he asked. The Queen turned her head slightly. "Then you may leave," she said. "Your path will be honored, and your daughter will rise or fall without you." Daniel felt the room shift, his breath slow. All his life, he had fought for her, dreamed of finding her again, and now that she was here, she wasn't a little girl anymore. She was something more, and he had a choice. Lily stepped to his side, her voice calm. "I don't want to be a queen alone," she said. "I'm not asking you to follow me. I'm asking you to walk beside me." Daniel looked at her hand, reaching toward his. It wasn't small and soft like before. It was steady, strong, trained. He hesitated just for a moment. Then he took it. He turned to the Queen. "I'll fight," he said, "but not for you. For her?" The queen nodded. "That is enough." And just like that, the air shifted again. The guards bowed. The vines above moved gently. And the humming grew louder. The hive accepted him. But Daniel knew this wasn't peace. This was the beginning of something darker. A battle not just against enemies outside, but against those inside the throne room. Those who still hated the idea of a human father standing beside an alien queen. He gripped Lily's hand tighter. They had a long road ahead. And he would walk every step of it with her. Night never truly came in the hive. Instead, the walls dimmed to a soft blue glow, like moonlight trapped inside glass. Daniel sat alone in his chamber, armor half removed, hands stained with training paint, not blood. He couldn't sleep, not because of pain, but because of the silence. It was the kind of silence that came before betrayal. Lilinar, his daughter, had eaten beside him tonight, but her eyes had changed. She spoke the alien language fluently now, nodded like a leader, smiled like someone who had accepted her crown. But he saw something else too, the way she glanced. At the guards behind her, the way her fingers tapped nervously when no one was watching. She was scared. Daniel stood and moved toward the control panel. It was simpler, glowing crystal connected to the wall. He pressed it twice, and Shira appeared. At the door 5 minutes later, armored and armed. "You're late," Daniel muttered. "You're being watched," she replied, stepping inside without permission. "We both are." Shira was no longer his rival, not since she had seen him take a blade through the shoulder just to shield a child from a collapsing column. Since then, she had followed him quietly, but without question. "There's movement in the lower nests," she said, tossing a holodisc on the table. It showed 3 alien elders speaking to a shadowed figure. One word kept appearing in their language. "Replace." Daniel's jaw clenched. "They want to replace her," he said. "Or test her loyalty," Shira added, "by making her kill someone close." His eyes narrowed. "She won't?" "She might," Shira replied. "She's scared of looking weak." Daniel stared at the image, heart thudding in his chest. They were using her, twisting her, the way tyrants twist crowns onto young heads. And if she refused, they'd destroy her. He looked up. "It's time?" "Time for what?" Shira asked. Daniel moved to the weapons rack and strapped on the gear he swore he'd never use again. "To stop pretending I'm just a guest," he said. "If they want war inside their hive, I'll give it to them." Within hours, Daniel had gathered 5 warriors each, one a quiet supporter of Lily's rule. Some were young, others old, but all had seen enough to doubt the council's true loyalty. They moved through the hive like shadows, entering tunnels that didn't exist. On any map, they reached the Queen's lower vaults, places only high-level officials could enter. There, hidden behind a wall of living vines, they found the truth, a second child, smaller, younger. Wearing a pale imitation of Lily's robes, surrounded by machines. Being trained to mimic her every word and movement, they built a backup. One of the rebels whispered, "They planned to erase her." Daniel felt fire rise in his chest. Not rage, but purpose. They had taken his daughter once, and now they were preparing to replace her like a broken tool. He moved fast, grabbed the child gently, and disabled the training systems. She blinked at him, confused. "I'm not her," she said softly. "I know," Daniel whispered. "And you're not a puppet either." They took her out with them, hidden in a cloak. But alarms began to echo. Someone had noticed. Daniel led them through side paths, dodging guards, pushing through living doors that tried to close. One wrong turn brought them into the inner palace, right into the throne chamber where Lily stood alone, waiting. She saw the child in Daniel's arms and her face went pale. "You found her," she whispered. "You knew?" Daniel asked, shocked. "I wasn't sure," Lily replied. But they kept whispering about a cleaner version, one without fear, without dearth. Then the doors burst open, and the queen entered, not surprised, not angry. She looked tired. They were never my orders. The queen said softly, but I allowed it. Daniel stepped in front of Lily and the girl. Then you're no different from the ones who built bombs on Earth. He growled. You pretend peace, but breed weapons in the dark. The queen raised her hand, signaling silence. I will face the council, she said. But you, Daniel of Earth, must now choose, stand with her in truth, or walk away and let her rule in shadow. Daniel looked at Lily. She held herself tall, but her hands trembled. She didn't want power. She just wanted to stop pretending. He turned to the queen. I won't leave her alone in this. And just like that, the balance shifted. Not with a battle, but with truth, and truth in the hive was more dangerous than any blade. The great chamber was silent, not the peaceful kind of silence, but the dangerous kind, like a storm just before it breaks the sky. Lily Nara stood at the center, her tiny shoulders heavy with the eyes of the hive. Hundreds had gathered, warriors, priests, even the silent shadow judges, and above them all, in the highest circle, the council watched like statues carved from stone. Beside her stood Daniel, her father, her ghost, now her shield. He wore no crown, no title. But every warrior in the chamber knew his name. Some whispered it with fear, others with respect. Commander, they called him now, even though he never asked for it. The queen stepped forward, her steps slower than before. She no longer looked untouchable. Something inside her had cracked after what Daniel exposed, the replacement child. The silent plot, the quiet betrayal within her own nest. This council, the queen said softly, has lost its way, and I have allowed it. The silence broke into gasps. Even the oldest among them turned toward one another in disbelief. Lily Nara raised her voice, clear and brave. I was born on Earth, she said. But I did not forget who I am. She turned toward the council. You tried to shape me into a symbol, she continued, but I am not your symbol. I am not a tool. And I am not alone. Daniel stepped forward, not with a speech, but with a simple action. He placed his hand on her shoulder. The room shook not from movement, but from meaning. A human and a hybrid child standing side by side in the heart of an alien empire. Together, they were something new. Something the council could not control. 1. Elder rose, his voice full of poison. She is not pure. She carries Earth's corruption. She will lead us to ruin. Before anyone could respond, Lily lifted her hand. Energy sparked at her fingertips, not fire, not lightning, something older, something alive. The air vibrated, and the elder dropped to one knee. Not out of respect, but instinct, whatever. Power she held now, it was real, and it was hers alone. I don't need your throne, Lily said, her voice trembling just a little. But if you try to hurt my family again, I will show you what I truly am. The queen nodded once, then turned and walked into the crowd. The crown slid from her head into Lily's hands. But Lily did not put it on. Instead, she turned to Daniel. You came for me, she whispered. You always do, he said with a small smile. Later, in the upper chambers, away from the noise, Lily sat on the edge of the window ledge. She stared at the stars, so many stars like tiny hopes waiting to be chased. Daniel stood beside her, not speaking, just breathing the same air. He had fought his way across planets, through fire and lies, not for war, not for revenge, but for this quiet moment, his daughter, alive, free, and beside him. Do you think Earth would accept me now? She asked softly. He thought for a long time, then shook his head. Not yet, he said, but one day, maybe, they'll understand. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Will you stay here with me? For now, he replied, but someday you'll lead both worlds. She looked up at him. "And you?" "I'm not a king," he said. "I'm just the guy who builds bridges and punches problems." She laughed, a real laugh, the kind he hadn't heard in years. Then she stood, holding the crown with both hands, not placing it on her head, but locking it inside a box. For now, she said, "I want to lead without wearing metal." Outside the hive, something new began. Alien ships no longer flew toward Earth with weapons, they came with messages. Lily Nara spoke to both humans and aliens, translating pain into peace. Daniel stood at her side not as a hero, not as a soldier, but as her father, and when she was ready to walk alone, he would step back, proud, broken, rebuilt again. They called her heir, queen, savior, but he never did, to him. She would always be just Lily, his little girl, the one he swore he'd protect, and the one who ended up saving him too.